Hello everyone, Floppy Waffle 69 here. In today's video, we are actually going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is I'm going to be giving 5 tips for noob beginner DD players to help increase their gaming experience, to get better results, the whole 9 yards, right? I think DDs are one of the hardest classes to play in the game. That is like no question to that. I do think as a cruiser main, I think cruisers now are the hardest, but that's just, my illicit bias on the matter. But anyways, I do want to help shed some light on DDs. I'll be doing this through all the classes in the game, maybe even the old submarines and aircraft carriers, but we'll definitely start with the surface ships for sure first. But yeah, there isn't any order to these. It's just 5 tips that that I wish I knew kind of when I first started playing DDs or getting into DD play, and this has allowed me to basically elevate my game and get better results out of my destroyers down the board and across all nations, all various play styles, and all tiers. So anyway, sit back and enjoy this video, guys. So number 1, the first thing I want to talk about is patience, not passiveness. This is this term that you're going to see a lot. I think this is a term you can utilize with all the classes. I think sometimes there's this fine line between doing nothing and then rushing in there and dying and YOLOing. I also think at the same time you can hold your shells, your fire, whatever it may be, in order to get the right specific angle on a ship, like battleships players do, especially when you're in longer reloading battleships, like Vermont, for example. And this goes to DDs as well. Potentially knowing when to fire, knowing when to shoot. This also falls under this category. Positioning your vessel, knowing when it's better to run out of your smoke screen and reposition rather than just sit in your smoke screen and continue to farm, that sort of stuff. So I definitely think understanding the difference between that passiveness and that having patience and calm collectiveness is going to help elevate your DD gameplay to the next level. So my second one on the list here is going to actually be right in the beginning of the game when the battle is loading in and you have that timer clicking down. Familiarizing yourself with your team lineups, and that goes for both the enemy team and your team. One thing I like to do in destroyers, especially tier 7 or higher, is I like to I don't know why that word is so fucking hard to say today, for fuck's sakes. But understanding which ships have radar and which ships don't, which ships have longer hydroacoustic search ranges, like 6 kilometer, 5.5, etc., and which ships don't, that sort of stuff. I think that's going to allow you to know necessarily, which is going to feed right into like your patience over passiveness, knowing kind of if I can contest this cap or not, or wait until the enemy Salem is spotted before I know I can go and safely secure that cap, sort of thing. So I think that is a big thing. So make sure that you read the team lineups right in the beginning of the battle and understand those ships and what they bring to the table. My third one is familiarizing yourself with your ship. So when before you load in the battle, understanding your concealment values, your torp ranges, your gun range, your reload, that sort of stuff, your gimmicks on your boat, what makes your ship strong, where is it weak, what is it weak at, that kind of stuff. And it can also be done in the battle screen by holding the H key. The H key is going to allow you to bring up all this great stuff, and you're going to be able to look at all your ship's stats and what kind of makes it tick, the pros and the cons. And this is going to be also kind of feeding it back into what we just talked about, which is the team lineup screen. You can do this with enemy vessels, and just make, a side note with this, I don't know if people know this, you should know this by now, is when you hover your cursor over an allied ship, it is going to show you the specific values and consumables taken by that ship. With the enemy team, it can only show you the possible best values of the ship, not necessarily what that ship or what that captain has taken on their ship. So that is a good note to keep in the back pocket when you're reading those team lineup screens. So, all right, going into our fourth one, guys, and this is don't always go straight for the caps. Now, this is going to be a contentious issue, and for all my battleship mains and cruiser mains out there like myself, I totally get it. You can fucking start bringing out the pitchforks and the torches out right now at me, but listen, there is some reason behind this, and this is going to fill in back to what we've already talked about between that patience and passiveness, about understanding the enemy team, what they have, and what makes your ship good. For example, if I'm in a Khabarovsk with 9.7 base, fully or whatever base stealth, I'm not going to want to charge into the A cap right after the beginning of the battle, because I know I'm going to be spotted, and chances of me counter spotting the thing that's going to be spotting me is so unlikely that it doesn't make any sense. You're just basically fodder at that point. You're wasting HP for no reason. So I think there's better DDs to do that for, like the Shimakaze, Smolensk, Gdansk, ships that have radar, those sort of things. I get it to some degree when you can contest those caps, but I think it's understanding basically about what your ship can do and what the enemy team has as well. And that's going to feed into what we've already talked about. As you can kind of see, this whole list is all about feeding into one another, what I've already talked about. And that's why I stand by this list, because it really helps dumb down DD gameplay a lot for you. So with this, be a little bit more passive. Understand that there's more to the game, especially when you're playing a domination style of game mode or capture the flag or whatever it is, to the more than just the objective. Definitely have the objective in the back of your mind. It becomes more and more important as we progress later on in the battle, especially when battles are close. But yeah, right in the beginning, when there's potentially 3 enemy radars on the team that you don't know where they're going to be spawning, there are DDs that are more stealthier than you. One DD has radar. It wouldn't make any logical sense to be heading right for the cap, especially with the prominence of aircraft carriers and submarines in the game nowadays. It's just going to make it that much harder to go ahead and play that objective, and the objective isn't going anywhere. You can definitely see above on the top end of your screen the timer. Just keep that in mind, understand and read that timer periodically, but realize that the objective is just another way to win the battle. More often than not, you're going to be winning most games by eliminating all other enemy ships in the game. It's basically how I would read it. Not saying ignore the objectives, but definitely use caution, and I would say have a little bit more patience with it than just charging right into the cap at the beginning of the battle. So that is my tip for that one. All right, and going into our last tip, which is obviously going to tie in everything I just talked about, kind of summing it all up, which is please, 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 as a destroyer and just as a player in this game, utilize the minimap. It is so important to see where ships' last known locations were, what ships have been spotted and are in the game, where they've been spotted, right, going into like the last known positions, technically where they are currently, that sort of stuff, kind of predicting enemy movement patterns, where they could be going, that sort of thing. I think the minimap, if you understand how to read the minimap and foresee the future, so to speak, and be able to anticipate enemy maneuvers and movement with the minimap, I think you can really elevate not only your DD gameplay, but your overall play in general. It's one of the most underrated things, I think, in this game. People don't pay it much mind because it's like it's always there. It's one of those things you kind of see past because you're so focused on your main screen shooting, that sort of stuff, and surviving, rather than reading the other information that's given to you. My one end-all be-all from this, if you disregard everything else that I said, this is the one thing I would try to stress the most to you, that you have to utilize this and develop the skill, because this is what's going to separate you from a lot of other players in this game, is being able to utilize that minimap and read it and predict enemy movement patterns effectively. And again, this will feed into everything that we've already talked about, which is going to, again, not only elevate your overall gameplay experience, but especially your DD gaming experience. DDs, as we know, are a very fragile class. Mostly, there are some that get that exception. We'll get to that down the road in some other videos. But to sum it up, gradually and accumulatively, as a class, overwhelming majority are very low HP compared to other ships, right? So we want to make sure that we can conserve our HP as much as possible while accumulating the most important thing for our team, which is vision. If we can screen for our team and apply vision, that's going to help us as well win the game. And that would be going into my number 6. I know this is a top 5, but it's an honorable mention, and a lot of people would say this would probably be number 1, and I totally get it, but I do think the other ones are a little bit more important. But my honorable mention is you got to supply vision for your team. Sitting in a smokescreen and farming is not necessarily going to allow your team to win, as you're only going to be able to farm what is already spotted. Obviously, this changes with allied ships around you, with enemy aircraft carriers or allied aircraft carriers in the game, submarines, etc. Sitting on your smoke screen is a double-edged sword, and make sure that the most important thing out there is that you are supplying vision. So please, please, please supply vision to your team, because that, again, your allies can't shoot what they can't see. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a little shorter one today. I just want to get that out there for everyone out there to hopefully take this to heart, because I really want to help you guys. So anyways, I will catch you all in the next video, guys. All right, peace out.